They thought they buried you, but heaven was planting something they could never uproot. Chosen one. This moment is not a coincidence. It is a summons. You didn't find this message by accident. Your spirit was drawn to it because something just shifted in the spirit realm, and they weren't ready. You moved in silence. While they slept on your name, heaven was engraving it into scrolls. They mistook your obscurity as rejection, not realizing it was protection. But the same soil that covers a seed is the ground that delivers resurrection. And when you rose, it shattered the illusion they built to contain you. Now they're pacing, questioning, rewriting stories they once told with confidence, because you've become the contradiction they can no longer explain, and the prophecy they never saw coming. Welcome to Echoes of the Chosen. This is not a platform, it's a prophetic threshold, and once you cross into what is being revealed, your identity can no longer remain hidden. It is written, "Behold, I will again do a marvelous work among this people. The wisdom of the wise shall perish, and the understanding of the prudent shall be hidden." That's not poetry. That's divine reality, and it's unfolding in your life right now. Stay with me until the end, because what's about to be unsealed may explain every delay, every betrayal, and every battle you were never meant to lose. This isn't motivation. This is activation. And by the time this scroll reaches its final word, you'll remember what they tried to make you forget. You were never average. You were never replaceable. You were sent. The hidden mark was always there. You didn't ask to be different. You were marked before birth. Before you ever took your first breath, heaven had already whispered your name into the scroll of divine strategy. That mark wasn't visible to everyone, but it drew resistance like a flame draws shadows. The rejection you felt wasn't accidental. It was the world reacting to something it couldn't control. Joseph's brothers hated him not for what he did, but for what he carried. His dreams disturbed what they thought was settled. And like Joseph, you've stirred envy in rooms where you only brought peace. You confused them. They couldn't locate your source, so they tried to shut down your signal. Theological truth. Being chosen doesn't mean being celebrated. It often means being targeted. You weren't delayed. You were disguised. People saw the surface, your quietness, your struggle, your hesitation, but God saw the weight of what you were carrying and the war it would trigger if revealed too soon. What they mocked was actually camouflage. You were hidden in plain sight, like Moses in the basket, like Esther in the palace, like David among sheep. The mark wasn't just a promise, it was a warning labeled to hell. Do not touch this one lightly. And now the mark is glowing. The silence can't hold it anymore. When obscurity becomes holy ground, there are seasons where nothing moves. Prayers echo into silence. Doors stay closed, and the people around you assume you've been forgotten. But there's a sacred truth they missed. God hides what he's about to release. Obscurity isn't punishment. It's preservation. It's the womb where prophets are formed. It's the wilderness where voices are stripped of ego and filled with fire. Jesus didn't step onto the scene until 30 years of quiet obedience passed. David wasn't crowned overnight. Joseph sat in prison between his dream and his destiny. Isaiah 49:2. He made me a polished arrow and hid me in his quiver. Prophetic declaration. The silence wasn't absence. It was divine surveillance. You were being watched, measured, refined, not by men, by heaven. While others raced for platforms, you were being positioned for permanence. You thought you were stuck, but in truth, you were being sheltered from the wrong stage. Obscurity turned into holy ground the moment heaven walked into it. That's why your name is now rising, because the hiding is over. The furnace that refused to let you quit. Every betrayal carved you deeper. Every loss dug out another place for glory to dwell. You've wept in places no one saw. You've screamed into pillows while smiling in public. The fire didn't just test you, it formed you. And still, you didn't quit. You didn't curse God. You didn't bow to bitterness. That's why the enemy fears you. Job lost everything and still said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." That's not weakness. That's unshakable alignment. That's what the fire gave you. Theological framing. Pain does not disqualify the chosen. It certifies them. The fire didn't consume you, it clarified you. You thought the losses were setbacks. They were sacred chisels in the hands of a sculptor. You lost what you thought you needed, only to become who you were always meant to be. They left. They mocked. They moved on. But the flame stayed, not to burn you out, but to burn you clean. Now there's nothing left to prove, only something left to release. The consequence of silence. God sends warnings before he sends storms. There are chosen ones right now walking with heavy scrolls, unread, untouched, collecting dust. They mistake peace for permission to delay. But heaven doesn't wait forever. Moses delayed and nearly died for refusing to obey his call to confront Pharaoh. Jonah ran, and a storm followed his ship. Saul disobeyed and lost his crown. You can't abort the mission without inviting spiritual disorientation. Delay becomes disobedience when the instruction is clear. Prophetic declaration. You're not waiting on confirmation. Heaven is waiting on your obedience. Some of you have already been told what to build, who to forgive, what to walk away from. But fear has kept your sword sheathed. And the cost. Repeated cycles. Confused seasons. Blocked doors. Obedience is not optional when the scroll has already been sealed. This is the last warning before the release. The silence that terrified them. You didn't make announcements. You didn't respond to their gossip. You didn't defend your name. And that's what terrified them most. Because silence in the hands of the chosen is not weakness. It's war. David didn't fight back when Saul hurled spears. Jesus stayed silent before Pilate. Esther fasted quietly before confronting the king. You moved in silence, and now your presence is their confusion. They can't figure out how you rose without their permission, how you arrived without fanfare, how you built something they can't tear down. They studied your old movements trying to find the blueprint, but you walked into the next season with steps only heaven could track. And now, you're a riddle they can't solve. A scroll they weren't given access to. You were sent, not just surviving. Chosen ones aren't called to just survive seasons. They're sent to shift them. You didn't make it through just to breathe easier. You made it through because your very presence is now a weapon in God's hand. Gideon didn't see himself as a warrior, but heaven did. Mary didn't ask to carry the word, but she was chosen. You didn't ask to be called, but the call is written in your bones. Scriptural echo, Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you, I appointed you a prophet to the nations. You are not recovering. You are being released. This is not about your pain. It's about your position. And the world you were sent to shift can't afford for you to keep hiding behind healing. You've been refined. Now you must be revealed. The roar of the silent remnant. There are others, all over the world, hidden, holy, dangerous in their obedience. You're not the only one who walked through fire. You're not the only one who wept in silence. You're not the only one who's been awakened by this divine ache to move, to build, to speak. This is the rise of the remnant. Elijah thought he was alone. God reminded him, there are 7,000 more. Prophetic declaration, you are not alone. You are among the awakened. This isn't a movement built by men. This is a divine uprising, a global alignment of chosen ones being summoned into their scrolls. Every step you take now is echoed in the spirit by others just like you. And together, the sound is undeniable. What you carry must echo beyond you. This was never just about your restoration. It was about your ripple. Your testimony is a weapon. Your obedience is a frequency. Your very existence is proof that heaven still interrupts history with holy ones. What started as survival is now becoming strategy. Prophetic declaration. You carry a sound that was never meant to stay in your chest. Let it echo. Into generations, into timelines, into cities you've never touched. Let it awaken what religion buried. Let it ignite what fear silenced. Because the echo isn't just the sound of your victory. It's the signal that others were waiting for. There's a reason they couldn't predict you. A reason their words fell short, their maps misled, and their strategies collapsed. Because you weren't sent to fit into their logic. You were sent to fulfill a mystery. You weren't late. You weren't overlooked. You were veiled by heaven. Until this precise hour. A divine interruption wrapped in human form. And now, every step you take echoes through realms they cannot see. Chosen one. You have walked through fire without fame. You have carried weight without witness. You have obeyed in silence while others paraded in noise. And heaven has not forgotten a single tear, a single test, or a single turning point. This was not about survival. It was about alignment. And now, the scroll of your life is opening. Your voice is no longer optional. Your presence is no longer hidden. And your movement can no longer be denied. You have been marked. You have been forged. And now, you are being sent. If this word pierced through the silence you've been walking in, comment 777 below. Not as a reaction, but as a response to your own awakening. Share what part struck you. What truth grabbed you? What shift you felt as this scroll unfolded? If your spirit recognized this as home, subscribe to Echoes of the Chosen and join the family rising across nations. Together, we are not just hearing revelation, we are becoming the echo. You are not alone. You are the next echo.